From Illinois Public Media News, this is 217 Today. I'm Kimberly Schofield. It's Monday, November 11th. Coming up, we'll learn more about how some Chicago advocates are developing plans to protect immigrants. That story in just a few minutes, but first, these headlines. On Saturday, student musicians from the University of Illinois took inspiration from artwork for an event at the Krannert Art Museum in Champaign. IPM Student Newsroom's Ayoshi Basu was there and had this report.
The musicians were assigned an open-ended prompt corresponding to the different exhibits and pieces. They moved freely from room to room, playing off the art, the atmosphere, and one another. U of I Assistant Music Professor Jason Finkelman says some musicians come into his improvisers exchange ensemble class with fixed ideas about music, but with improv, the group is planning another event at the museum in April. I'm Ayoshi Basu, IPM News.
A federal judge in southern Illinois ruled on Friday that a controversial law banning semi-automatic firearms is unconstitutional. Mawa Iqbal has more.
Judge Stephen McGlynn, in his 168-page ruling, explained that guns like the AR-15 are commonly used by citizens for self-defense. The Trump-appointed judge wrote that fundamental rights like the Second Amendment do not, quote, subsist subject to the whims of government officials and judges. Gun rights groups like the Illinois State Rifle Association are celebrating the ruling. Meanwhile, State Attorney General Kwame Raoul's office says they plan on appealing the decision. The ban was pushed by Democratic state lawmakers in response to the Highland Park Parade mass shooting, where a gunman used an assault rifle to kill 7 people and injure dozens more. I'm Mawa Iqbal.
It was a strong weekend for both Illinois men's and women's basketball. IPM student reporter Jacob Stutz has more.
This past week, both basketball teams on campus got off to as good of a start to the season as fans could ask for, each going 2-0 at State Farm Center. Brad Underwood's young, new-look men's roster easily took down EIU and SIUE, while Shauna Green's squad defeated number 19 FSU and Marquette. A key part of the women's team's early success has been the way Green has been prepping her players to handle when their opponents make a run, something the Illini struggled with last season.
I've been very intentional, the most I've ever been, about trying to create chaos and adversity in practice.
Next up for both teams is another home game. The men will take on Oakland Wednesday night at 8, and the women tip off against EIU at 7 on Thursday. I'm Jacob Stutz, IPM News.
Still to come, we'll learn more about how some Chicago advocates are developing plans to protect immigrants. That story is coming up next on 217 Today, but first, meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your forecast.
I'm meteorologist Andrew Pritchard with your IPM News forecast for Champaign-Urbana. Your forecast for today, sunny with a high of 62 degrees and a west wind 5 to 15 miles per hour. Tonight, clear skies with a low of 33 degrees, a north wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tomorrow, sunny with a high of 52 degrees, an east wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. Tomorrow night, mostly cloudy with a low of 36 degrees, southeast wind 5 to 10 miles per hour. And for Wednesday, partly cloudy with a chance of showers and a high of 58 degrees, and a southeast wind 10 miles per hour.
Next time on the 21st Show, we'll talk with Republican Congressman Mike Bost, just re-elected from Southern Illinois. Plus, historian and journalist Jonathan Alter sat through all of Donald Trump's New York fraud trial and wrote about it in a new book. We'll talk about that and the outcome of the election. I'm Brian Mackey. That's next time on the 21st Show. Join us.
You're listening to 217 Today. I'm Kimberly Schofield. President-elect Donald Trump's anti-immigrant campaign promised new border restrictions, mass deportations, and withholding federal funding for sanctuary cities. In Chicago, advocates are taking those promises seriously. They are developing plans to protect immigrants, but they have a long road ahead of them. Adriana Cardona-Magigod has more.
At a press conference today in the Pilsen neighborhood, immigrant rights advocates shared a strong sense of urgency.
I'm going to be 100% honest with you all. I didn't want to be here today.
There's a lot of feeling of uncertainty and fear. To all of the folks in the community who are worried, who are scared for themselves, for their families, know that we've got each other.
They're bracing for a second Trump presidency, which means potentially going back to some of the harshest immigration policies the country has ever seen, including travel bans, raids, and zero-tolerance policies that separate families. Trump's mass deportation plans could impact more than 400,000 undocumented residents in Illinois. State Senator Graciela Guzman says she's been getting tons of calls from people in her community.
All morning, I've been getting calls from organizers, from community members, from schools, from folks that, again, are asking the central question, what is going on? What are the resources? What are we losing, with a Trump administration?
Guzman and many advocates at the press conference agree it's time to organize.
We are launching a community defense plan that starts today.
Dulce Ortiz leads Mano a Mano, an organization that empowers immigrants.
We will build up our deportation defense infrastructure through a series of public Know Your Rights trainings.
They plan to get out the word that, among other things, everyone, regardless of immigration status, has the right to not open their doors to agents unless they show a criminal warrant. Advocates say they also need more legal support. Ana Gil Garcia sits on the board of the Illinois Venezuelan Alliance. She worries about the thousands of recently arrived asylum seekers who might be eligible for humanitarian parole and other programs that Trump has vowed to end. She says we need to have more legal clinics before January to help migrants who haven't started their application process. But the work doesn't end there. Advocates also need to figure out how to preserve local policy. President-elect Donald Trump has also vowed to block federal funding to sanctuary cities like Chicago. Under Chicago's Welcoming City Ordinance, municipal employees, including police, aren't allowed to ask people about their immigration status or disclose that information to federal authorities. But
the city, unfortunately, cannot stop federal agents from operating within city limits.
Fred Sau is with the Illinois Coalition for Immigrants and Refugee Rights.
The city does not control where federal agents operate or how they operate.
Which is why he says the grassroots education efforts are so important. Graciela Guzman, the state official, says advocates in the movement will need to make sure they overcome conflicts, particularly among long-term immigrants and new arrivals.
I think this is the time to be unified, right? And to understand that there are forces that use fragmentation within the broader immigrant experience to try to make sure that we're not safe.
She says now it's the time for a unified front. Adriana Cardona-Maguigad, WBEZ News.
That's it for today. 217 Today is produced by Stephanie Mosqueda. Reporting today contributed by Aoishi Basu, Mawa Iqbal, Jacob Stutz, and Adriana Cardona-Maguigad. Music by the Kilbourne Alley Blues Band. Reginald Hardwick is our news director. I'm Kimberly Schofield. 217 Today is a production of Illinois Public Media. Thanks for listening, stay safe, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow.